Scobie, I go back to his class. And I said, Mr. Scobie, I left the purple folder. He said, yes, you did. Those things were very, I gave it to Dr. Hutchinson. What? So I'm freaking out because the last thing I want to do is have to explain to my mother that I again wrote something that was inappropriate, which I'll admit it wasn't as bad as my first book, but it still had some inappropriateness in it, and got it confiscated by a teacher. All right, so what you're looking at is those two young ladies, Yvonne and Jessica. For those of my young people, this is back in the day when you snapped the picture, you didn't know what it was going to look like. That's why it was best to take 15 photos, because you didn't know who eyes was closed or who was looking crazy, because you had to develop the film. But that's not my reason for posting this video. I posted this video early as a throwback, but also was a reminder of the reason why I have the book Reverse and why I started back fiction writing. So Yvonne and Jessica used to be I had readers, I had fans. They were my friends who loved my book, and I would write books starting 6th grade, 11 years old. I remember writing poetry. And then 7th grade, me and this girl were writing stories back and forth, finishing each other's stories. I'll admit they were not the most appropriate. Yvonne, Jessica, and I were all part of that crew. Matter of fact, we even got even closer because when we were getting ready to move to Columbia in 1996, my mom and dad sold the house unexpectedly sooner than they expected. And the house was built, so we had to move into an apartment. And the apartment complex we were in was right off of Ginyard. I think that's the name of that road. And my Yvonne and Jessica, we ended up riding the same bus together. So this is where this picture came from. Fast forward, either my junior or my sophomore year at Winthrop University, I decided to take a fiction writing class because I knew this is something I can do. I still at the time never saw myself publishing. I didn't. I just liked to write. So after the fiction writing class, I did not receive the best grades. Granted, I didn't turn working on time. And number two, I don't think I really edited my work the way I needed to. And I needed work. But I took his criticism as I could not write fiction. So I completely stopped writing fiction around 2000 to 2001. That's when I completely stopped writing it, even though I started writing it in 1992. Then I kept writing poetry. Even when I was proposed to publish, I was thinking about my poetry. I was not thinking about fiction. Ran into Jessica and Yvonne at our 10-year class year reunion at Sumter High. And if we didn't have it at Sumter High, we had it at, I think, Watery. Somewhere. I think it was Watery. I hope somebody got a house and we met out there with our kids and just had a good old time. And one of the things that came up, Yvonne, I never said so loudly, whatever happened to stories you used to write? And I said, what? And it stuck with me. It stuck with me. So that's when I started, paying attention to my surroundings, as far as like hearing my students share that Stephanie Meyer wrote her stories and her books out of dreams. And I started realizing my dreams were very vivid. So I started documenting my dreams. And Reverse was that story that stuck with me. And originally this was not called Reverse. This was called Boomerang. It was a dream of really what will become Donovan and Monica meeting up at their high school reunion and realizing they've had these feelings for each other all this time. And I said, why don't we take it back from the beginning to when they first realized they had these feelings? And that's when Boomerang was born, and eventually it turned into Reverse. And we have a second part, Retreat. But there's another story that I want to share with y'all that Yvonne brought back to my remembrance because I posted it on Facebook and I tagged her on it. So every story I wrote, not every, 2 of the novels or novellas or whatever you want to call it was confiscated in middle school. So the first one I remember writing all the pages, putting in a yellow 3-prong folder. I let my homegirl borrow it. And the reality is parents are nosy. I'm that nosy parent. And her stepmom saw it, thought, oh, Ryan wrote a book, and did not realize the language and the images that would be conveyed in that book. So immediately she walked across the street to my mama, who sealed it up, I remember, in a manila envelope and put it at the top of her closet. To this day, I wish I had the boldness to steal my story back, but I wasn't trying Barbara like that. Am I crazy? No. Then the second story that was confiscated, and I'm not going to sit here in front. I don't know why we felt the need to write what we wrote and to be as inappropriate as we were. And we weren't even engaging in those type of activities. You know what I'm saying? So then 8th grade, and I remember it was 8th grade. The 7th grade was when I wrote the first one. 8th grade, the second one was in a purple 3-prong folder. And I remember leaving it, we called him Mr. Scooby behind his back, but his name was Mr. Scobie. I don't know if Mr. Scobie is still alive, because he was old when I had him in 92, 93, or 93, 94, 93, 94. So I immediately have to report to Dr. Hutchinson, and he said, I never get, because I never got in trouble, y'all. Like literally, I can count on my hand the number of times I got in trouble in school from preschool to my senior year in high school. And I remember going to Dr. Hutchinson about it. And I remember if he summoned me or I went to him really having a gumption about me, like I'm not getting another story taken and I want my story back. But I didn't go in there acting that way. But in my mind, that's how I was going to approach the situation. So immediately, he was like, let's be honest, you don't get in trouble. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to meet with our counselor and we're going to see, we need to talk about some things. Basically, they felt like what I was talking about was inappropriate and I shouldn't be writing things like that. Forget the talent, forget the drama, the reality is the fact that Mr. Scobie read as much as he did. You liked it. And the crazy connection to this, y'all, is that happened to another student that her name was Jakayla. And I remember the white counselor feeling appalled by what she wrote, but me and her mom was like, this is good. I know it's inappropriate for her age, but this is good. And I had to tell her, because that happened to me, keep writing, but at the same time, just be careful who you allow to read your writing, because not everybody's going to receive it. We have to do that with our kids sometimes when they come out, when they have talent. It's obvious they have talent, but the way it's coming out or the way it's oozing out, we may not be ready for it because we don't feel like their age that's appropriate for them. So be careful that we don't completely can it, like snuff it out, versus trying to help them navigate that space to be in a more, for some people, would be a more appropriate space, if that makes sense. So met with the counselor. I just remember it being a BS session. Like, why am I here? Like, what, am I not going to get my story back? I remember asking him that. That's how comfortable I felt, because he really was just really laid back. I did not get my story back. But I will say to this day, that is definitely, the first story was trash. The first story I wrote in the yellow note folder was trash. I'm not going to sit here in front. But that second one was really, really good, to the point I know I'm going to revamp it. I remember the first chapter. I had a newborn baby. I was married to a dude he was my boyfriend at the time. Everybody's name was used in real time in the book. Shouldn't have done that. So my husband is home. I remember I was living in Charleston. I went home to go visit my mom with the baby, and my dad came home to seeing this woman in my bed who I named her purposely after someone that no one liked in the middle school. And then kicked her behind, dragged her down the steps, kicked her out my house, and then divorced my husband. But he comes back, and I let him come back. So I don't know how I'm going to revamp that, but I'm definitely going to rewrite that. But I just wanted to share this awesome throwback moment and how things come back full circle.